Jak and Daxter, Jak II, Jak III. I played these games as a kid, and now I've played these games even more as an adult. Jak and Daxter the Precursor Legacy is probably the game that I most vividly remember from my childhood. We definitely owned it, though it ran on a CD that was suspiciously blank, apart from some text written in marker that read, Jak and Daxter. So for most of my life, I've been on the run from police. Jak II wasn't one of the games that me and my brother personally owned growing up, but we played it at our cousin's house. And I think all we did was take turns beating up Crimson Guards and see who could survive the resulting onslaught the longest. And Jak III, I think, was the same situation as Jak II, because I definitely remember seeing some of these cutscenes way back in the day, but I didn't really have any vivid memories of the actual gameplay. So here's what it's been like to re-experience these games. The Precursor Legacy introduced us to a world with a mysterious substance called Eco that exists in 5 variants. There are designated sages that are trained in the manipulation of each specific form of Eco, though while sneaking around on a mysterious island, a kid named Jak discovers that he apparently has control over Eco too. Unfortunately, this discovery coincides with his friend Daxter being knocked into a giant vat of dark Eco. Though instead of dying, he gets flung back out after being transformed into an Ottsel, which is a hybrid of an otter and a weasel. I don't know why they didn't just say transformed into an otter or a weasel, but hybrid animals are a recurring thing in this series, because you've also got yak owls, a crocodile, kangaroos, and this thing.
I am Pecker. Yes, I know. My mother, she was very vindictive.
Just call yourself a different name. Who's going to stop you? Also, imagine your parents hating you so much that they name you after a penis. Anyways, with Jak's universal control over Eco, it's up to him to take down the Dark Eco Sages Gol and Maya, who've gone rogue and kidnapped most of the other Eco Sages. You could say they make quite the devastating pair. Jak's helped out by the Green Eco Sage Samos! And his engineer daughter Kira, who's probably underage, so don't say anything.
Right, Daddy?
Yep, that's her dad. And they apparently make a brief mention of her mum at some point. So canonically, this old man fucks. Still in the early days of the PS2, the Precursor Legacy keeps gameplay pretty simple. You jump again, you jump higher, you punch, you do a spin kick that makes it look like you're giving your best friend blunt force trauma, and sometimes you drive vehicles. Green Eco is your health force, and the other 3 coloured Ecos give you special abilities.
Brother, what's that?
Though the red Eco ability of extra strength is practically irrelevant towards the completion of the game as far as I remember. The Precursor Legacy is by far the most intuitive game in this original trilogy. The downside of this is that after completing the story and getting all of the collectibles, I'd only been playing the game for about 12 hours, according to howlongtobeat.com. That is how long it tends to take to beat the whole game, so I guess that makes me an average gamer. Woo! Even in challenges or certain platforming areas where I ended up dying multiple times, I still always had the sense of, yeah, no, I could definitely complete this. The only time that really got tested was this one particular room in Gol and Maya's Citadel, because you have to get through all of this in one go with no checkpoints to get to the sage at the end. And looking back, it's not even all that hard of a platforming challenge. I was just making it hard for myself because I was getting impatient and rushing through it. And it definitely doesn't feel like all that much of a challenge compared to some of the stuff that the next game would have in store. The game takes you through a bunch of different biomes and an assortment of mysterious underground locations, and the outdoor settings manage to be quite vibrant and lush, which is super impressive for a 24-year-old PS2 game.
Oh, cock.
Though you may end up getting a little bit too acquainted with these environments, as going from one level to another can often involve quite a lot of traversal. This really becomes apparent in the volcanic crater hub, because to get to either Spider Cave or Lava Tube, you gotta stand on these slow-ass minecart things. And to get to Snowy Mountain, you got to take this cable car, which doesn't involve any fiddly platforming, thankfully, but it does involve what feels like a 30-second unskippable cutscene.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
So the limited amount of fast travel and the overall low amount of content in the game are, I'd say, valid criticisms of it, but they're definitely not deal breakers. I consider this to be a pretty cozy game overall, and you can tell that they put a lot of heart into this. Even after all these years, this game is still pretty much an essential for fans of platforming games in general.
Gaul and Maya are lost. Yes, Gaul and Maya. The Dark Eco probably destroyed them. Probably.
Nah, definitely destroyed them. Gaul does sort of appear in the Daxter spin-off game, but we never get another official appearance from him or Maya and her giant personality. Jak II, or Jak E, if you don't understand Roman numerals. And yeah, who cares about Daxter anymore, that little fucking rat?
I do love a woman in uniform. Want to bark some orders at me? Woof woof. I'm your soldier on the front line.
The gang travels through time to a dystopian future where Jak is captured and pumped full of dark eco for the sake of an experiment.
All this dark eco still hasn't killed the boy, and I still haven't earned me millionth dollar.
Jak survives that onslaught of dark eco, but now he's so freaking pissed off that he finally talks.
I'm gonna
Say the N-word.
Then Jak and Daxter escape the fortress, and for a while they end up being basically errand boys for the underground, much to their chagrin.
If you survive, the slums will be indebted to you. If not, maybe we'll have a touching moment of silence in your honor.
I'd like to give him a touching moment.
Did Daxter just threaten to molest him? It's a wonder that the Crimson Guard aren't swarming at you 24/7. In fact, some of them don't know what this high-level fugitive even looks like.
Please advise. Suspect's description.
I don't know, have you tried going after the only guy in the city who runs around everywhere, carjacks people, drives like a lunatic, and has an accomplice who's 3 feet tall and covered in orange fur? Eventually you'll gain the clearance required to travel throughout the whole of Haven City, including the racing stadium, where you meet a mechanic that everyone recognizes as Kira, except for the 2 boys that are supposed to have a crush on her. Come on, you've got to at least recognize the voice, right? Then you win some races, and you overcome Baron Praxis, and you kill the King of the Metalheads, and I do like this game's story, it's just that I can't be bothered to summarize it all, and other people could summarize it better than I can anyways. Also, Ashlyn, put on some proper armor for God's sake, how are you not dead? Sorry, Daxter did what? Now to cover more of the gameplay of Jak II, and I should point out that I wasn't replaying these 3 games on standard hardware, though for the Precursor Legacy, it didn't really affect the experience overall. Jak II, meanwhile, it ran like ass. I was playing quite a bit of the game at half speed, although I think most of that happened in the hub world when I was transporting between missions or doing the side missions. So I don't think it made the main storyline missions too much harder, like I don't think that would have made my reflexes worse during those missions or anything like that. But those rendering issues are why I'm doing a review video on this rather than a live reaction gameplay sort of video that I normally try to do. Remember, I am at best an average gamer, and it seems like the average gamer tends to agree that completing missions in Jak II is a bit of a kick in the genitals. I think the problem is less that this game is fundamentally hard. After all, I was able to beat the game, so it can't be super hard. But it's much harder to strategize how to complete a slightly harder part of a mission when you have to grind away for 5 minutes in order to get back to that part. The mission that stuck out to me the most in this regard was the one where you got to escort the demolition crew through the sewers. Because there's only about 5 or 6 different sets of enemies that you have to deal with throughout the mission, but after you've taken care of one set of enemies, you gotta wait for the demo crew to do their stuff and then mosey on down to the next set piece. Every single time. And if you die at any point before all the demolitions are complete because, for instance, you couldn't quite get a hang of dodging all of those laser sights that instantly damage you if you touch them, then you gotta do it all over again. And now a lot of the dialogue from this mission is seared into my brain. Cover your ears? You mean cover your ass?
What did you put in those boob sticks?
Your bad breath. I love this job. Here's where I was replaying the mission and I was like, oh, the next part's gonna be the giant wave of metalheads, isn't it? Better get the Vulcan Fury equipped then. Skip the cutscene. Oh, he's got the blaster out for some fucking reason. And I try to switch to the Vulcan Fury but get killed in the process. And you know what that means.
Quiet, here comes Pretty Boy.
So Jak II is less a test of your reflexes and more a test of your patience. and I generally prefer a test of reflexes because that would at least feel like a more natural difficulty curve. Instead of the developers seemingly worrying about the game being too easy, so they decided to just put in fuck all checkpoints to make up for it. But at least I can look back and say that I had to work hard in order to complete this game, and if I got a chance to replay this game on better hardware, then I absolutely would. I'm certainly not going to bother trying to complete all of the side missions until I can play on better hardware, because right now I can barely even fathom how it's possible to get a gold time on the races especially. But those races do tend to run slow on my system overall, so that could definitely impact how well I can drive. I haven't seen a lot of people online complaining about the difficulty of these races, unlike a lot of the actual main missions in the game. But it's funny looking at this Class 3 race at the stadium where I'm absolutely smoking the competition. But whilst there were definitely some hairy moments in this race, it feels like a pretty big ask for them to get me to shave 9 seconds off of my time. Then there's the fucking city race, which I spent way too much time grinding in order to just get a bronze time. And yeah, I'm probably just a bad driver. But you also have to contend with these fucking civilians that won't get out of the fucking way, and, of course, you have to hit all of the boost rings in order to finish the race. But your opponent doesn't, and you might miss a ring because he's cock-blocking you, the cheating fuck! Meanwhile, when you activate the port race, Torn introduces it saying that it's the harder of the two Zuma races.
This baby's a little more difficult.
But whenever I did that race, this happens. Oh, I missed that ring. So much for this run then. Nah, turns out the rings aren't compulsory in this one. Is this some kind of sick joke? So beating the gold time on the port race was basically nothing. Meanwhile, after about 100 attempts on the city race, my best time was less than 2 seconds away from silver. Speaking of difficult missions, you know that one in the water slums? I originally completed it with much perseverance, of course, but I since read that you can apparently cheese the mission by just spamming punch all the way to the end. Let's see if that myth actually works. Fuck this game. Nah, I'm obviously joking. Jak II is a great game, and I appreciate the bold risks that Naughty Dog took with this game. That being said, as things stand, will I be trying to collect all of the remaining Precursor orbs? Abso-fucking-lutely not. And now we've got Jak III. Or Jake, if you think that the 3 is a backwards E because you're a hacker or something. Suddenly the metalheads are running riot in Haven City, and despite all of Jack's efforts against them in the previous game, the new head of Haven City convinces everyone that it's his fault. After all, as the Baron Praxis regime showed, these people are definitely not immune to propaganda. So Jak and Daxter are banished to the desert, where they're eventually rescued by a group of wastelanders from another walled city called Spargus. And for some reason, the wastelanders cut Jak's hair. Though I actually appreciate that, because to me the mullet was kinda disgusting. It's probably a big reason why I completed most of Jak II in small head mode.
Jak, you look different.
It's been a tough ride.
After acquainting ourselves with Damus, the king of Spargus, we also get to know Cleaver, the vehicle guy. Wait, why did I introduce him like he's Bill Nye?
Cleaver, the vehicle guy.
With the worst excuse for a British accent that I think I've ever heard. Wait, it's meant to be an Australian accent? Fuck me dead. In Spargus, you also meet a mysterious group of monks who lead you towards gaining new abilities involving the manipulation of light eco, in addition to the already established dark eco abilities. But only after a bunch of shenanigans, of course.
You are still here?
Yeah, we thought we'd hang out, catch some rays.
This isn't a game.
But also, let's race.
Holy shit, you fucking killed her, dude!
Eventually, you make it back to Haven City and team up with the Underground again, which of course is still being spearheaded by Torn and Ashlyn. Oh yeah, Kira's there too. She does give you an upgraded jet board, but that's pretty much the only real significance that Kira has in this game. The first time she appears at a cutscene, she doesn't even have any lines, so she just heads up silently emoting in the background throughout it. Anyway, who the hell is this Vega guy that's never appeared in the series until now? Well, we eventually find out that he was the guy that took Jak away from his father, who was secretly Damus this whole time, in order to try and set up the eco experiments on him early on. But the underground got a hold of him before that could happen, as we saw when Jak first encountered the Kid in Jak II. I like how these games gradually put the previous games into context and retroactively establish Jak's timeline. There's only a couple of things that I questioned story-wise across all three games. Firstly, if Jak had Samos as his guardian for most of his childhood, then how did he apparently never cross paths with Samos' daughter until he was a teenager? Secondly,
We've been waiting for you.
Errol, how could you have been waiting for Jak when he literally only just appeared in this timeline, as a teenager at least? Logically, I think he was just supposed to be saying that they were looking for a young boy to take in to do the eco-testing thing and make an eco-hero or whatever. But I feel like it could have been worded a little better. Thirdly, and perhaps most glaringly, Ashlyn had the ability to strip Vega of all of his titles and privileges in the Haven City Council, but she apparently couldn't stop Vega from banishing Jak into the Wasteland? Maybe Ashlyn wasn't really worried because she knew that Damus would rescue Jak in the Wasteland, but she definitely seemed a bit worried at the time. And you think they could have saved Haven City a lot faster with much less hassle if they avoided all of this. Then Jak meets the Precursors, and after they offer to show him the outer universe, Jak asks them to call him by the name that Damus originally gave him, Ma. Then of course the next games that we got in the series were Ma X and Jak and Daxter, The Lost Frontier. But no, Jak didn't tag along with the Precursors after all, because he didn't want to abandon his horny ass friend. On that note, did being turned into an Otzel rewire Daxter's brain so that he's now sexually attracted to Otzels as well? Or were Daxter and Tess just zoophiles this whole time?
Where do you think you're going, little bugger? I've decided I want my own sidekick, and you've been nominated. Just don't make me angry.
That just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
What's it like to actually play Jak 3? Well, overall, the game ran a lot better for me than Jak II did, except for a few missions where the game turns into a PowerPoint presentation. But this game is basically just a Jak II remaster, albeit with new weapons, new vehicles, new eco abilities, but the jetboard's still pretty much the same, and any part of the game that basically requires you to use the jetboard kinda sucks, let's be real.
What?
The new main voice associated with the Precursors is an improvement though.
Another time freeze challenge is afoot.
Instead of doing a weird gravelly Yoda voice. Bring me 90 herbs for the palsy. Okay, to be fair, I don't even know how to properly recreate that voice. Kira's new voice on the other hand.
Jak, the hollow cube! That's one of the items we need for the forest!
Ew, don't like it. I think maybe her new voice sounds a little bit too serious compared to her old voice, but I don't know. All I know is that the old voice was better. Another big change from Jak II to Jak 3 is that Naughty Dog finally decided to be a bit generous with the mission checkpoints. Maybe a bit too generous. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. This game is for babies. Was there a certain mission that you either couldn't beat or it took you a very long time to beat? You're a baby. Did you struggle with driving in the desert? Baby. Did you struggle to get the gold score in some of the mini games? Okay, some of those definitely aren't for babies. I'll get back to them. Unlike Jak II, in Jak 3, I think there's only 2 or 3 missions towards the end of the campaign where you have to either destroy multiple waves of enemies or multiple targets in one go without dying. So I certainly had a good time completing the campaign, though I was surprised that I got to the end without really having to grind certain missions at any point. In fact, if there were 0 mission checkpoints in this game, then I don't think it would have taken me any more than an hour longer to complete the campaign. When you beat the Jak 3 campaign, you unlock the ability to buy Hero Mode, where you can go back through the campaign, but with all of the guns and eco abilities that you have unlocked by the end of it. And the missions are supposed to get a bit harder in Hero Mode to compensate for that. Of course, Jak II had Hero Mode as well, but I only just unlocked the mode in that game. I wasn't super eager to get to that point for reasons that are probably self-evident, but I was very keen for the Jak 3 Hero Mode because I was thinking, could this be the optimal way to play the game? The perfect middle ground between the baby mode of Jak 3 and the head smashing in of Jak II? Well, I completed the story missions in less than 8 hours apparently, so no, Jak 3 Hero Mode is also for babies. You'd think that being able to reset the storyline but keep all of your fully upgraded weapons, and even cheats if you'd already purchased those, that they'd actually make the enemies noticeably harder to kill, but I guess not. Was it still fun to play through these missions a second time? Yeah, of course. But but it's mostly the melee and gunfight-based missions that hold up for replaying the most. A lot of the remaining missions just feel a bit routine because they're not really challenging enough. I was also a bit disappointed that I never really had to make use of most of the eco abilities. Aside from some barriers that you have to break with the Dark Blast in order to progress, Dark Jak is pretty much pointless for at least the second half of the game. As for the new light eco abilities, well, the regeneration ability, obviously we all use that one. It's a literal lifesaver. Light flight is needed to get over some large gaps in certain missions, so fair enough. The time stopping ability is needed to get out of the Bug Temple after you first unlock said ability. Then once you're out of the temple, it has absolutely zero purpose. And Light Shield? I keep forgetting that that's even a thing you could do. The one thing that Light Shield is good for is the infinite flight method that I'm sure was completely dev intended. Yeah, no, I'm heading off, mates. I'm sure you guys can handle all this on your own. I feel like going for a swim in the void. And now here are the Jak III minigames that I consider to be Jak II levels of demanding. First, there's the Wave Concussor gun course. You basically have to commit this whole course to memory in order to have any chance of getting gold. It felt like I'd have to destroy every single target in the run without hitting any civilians, otherwise I would just miss out on gold. Although in this run I think I missed 3 targets and accidentally hit 2 civilians without realizing, but I did just get the gold score after destroying the last target. Second is the Eco Grid game. And clearing the first level is fine because you can follow the same set path every time and manage to avoid the... whatever you call that. I'll call it a ghost because this is basically Pac-Man. But yeah, you can avoid the ghost and collect all of the orbs easy. The problem is that in order to beat the gold score, you have to do that same routine 3 times and then get enough orbs on the 4th level, which introduces a second ghost. And at that point, strategy goes out the window. So this game isn't fundamentally hard, but it balances that out with the Jak II strategy of beating you over the head with tedium. And speaking of tedium, last but certainly not least, there's the satellite game. The score to beat for gold in this game is 1,000 points. It takes 3.5 minutes just to get half of that. So to earn all of the precursor orbs from the satellite game, you have to sit through about 6 minutes of this. Plus if you miss a symbol and then it goes into the middle, that counts as 2 misses. So it can be game over very quickly. But I did finally manage to get those 1,000 points, thanks to repeatedly pausing the game in between waves of symbols in order to compose myself for the next wave. I also may have been pausing the game in order to create a save state in case I fucked up. But I'll have you know, cross my heart, I got the 1,000 points without having to reload any of those save states. Are you fucking happy, Naughty Dog? Are you happy? Unfortunately, even though I'd been on high alert for precursor orbs throughout the campaign, I realized that once I completed all the side missions, I was still going to be 25 orbs short. I'm just going to use walkthroughs to find the rest of them, because, mate, these maps are huge, which is awesome, but fuck. I'm still not really sure which of these 3 games I'd pick as my favorite, because they all have their own strengths, but then they also have their own weaknesses that basically balance that out. But I can definitely say that they each hold up more than well enough for me. I definitely hope that I can do a video about any of the other 3 remaining games in the Jak and Daxter series as well, especially Jak X, because that was the game in the series that I played the most as a kid. I never played The Lost Frontier, but it seems like most Jak and Daxter fans just pretend that that one doesn't exist. But that is partly why I want to play it someday. And then Daxter for PSP, I mean, I'll probably play it. Might not be worth a video, but we'll see. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then leave a like and maybe even subscribe. And comment below which mission in Jak II made you most want to commit unalive. Thank you.